So it's not something I would ever wish upon anyone. You're never the same afterwards. Like, you're always going to be jaded.
In the moment that it happens, it feels like you will never be okay again.
So many emotions, and a lot of times it can feel like, how do you experience joy?
Your life changes. You have to adapt to a new normal.
You know, there's certainly some really dark days.
Some days I was like, okay, like I'm okay. Other days and I was okay, and then I was like, well, why am I okay? Like, I should still be sad. And then other days I was a complete like wreck.
I wish someone would have just said to me that it was okay.
People don't realize is that we just didn't lose a life, we lost a lifetime.
I can't do it.
I'm Jenny.
And I am Ryan, and we're from Pittsburgh. Our son Chance was born at 20 weeks on September 20th of 2020. He was 9.5 inches and 10.5 ounces when he was born. It was the day after our gender reveal, so we had our entire family over, had a big party, found out that we were having a boy, and then the following day, Chance was born at 8:07. He lived, I believe, for 1 hour and 16 minutes until he passed away at the hospital. It was also the day before our first anniversary, so it was supposed to be a pretty big weekend for us that wasn't so happy in the end.
Losing Chance was very obviously devastating. We, after losing him, waited some time, and then we had actually gotten pregnant a second time, had some new hope there, and then actually went to our first appointment and found out that we had miscarried. The baby didn't have a heartbeat. So having that loss after our initial loss was just, again, another devastation that we had.
We do have a daughter, though. We got pregnant a third time with Skylar, also not an easy pregnancy. With all of the loss that we had before, we were in the high-risk practice at McGee, which they were great through the entire thing. But yes, even with that pregnancy, you know, our hopes were high, but not like with everything that we've gone through. It wasn't easy. We did have some complications with that one too, but everything turned out to be good. So. And Skylar's 8 months now, so.
We don't just have one thing, we have a lot of things we like to do. Brian has his little shoes here. Brian always wears Converse in the truck, so we got the little shoes to announce our pregnancy. So we had Chance cremated, so there's actually like a little bracelet in there that has some of his ashes in it. So we've since bought him other pairs of shoes over the years. So when we go to like family events or just fun events that he would have otherwise been there with us, we take the shoes along with us. For Christmas, the past couple of years, we bought gifts for whatever age he would have been, that age range, and then like donated them to a local toy drive. Our families have participated in those with us, so I think those are probably my two favorite things that we do.
His due date was February 4th. On that day, obviously, it was extremely hard for us. But we ended up, when he was in the hospital, after he had passed, they took footprints and they gave them to us. So we actually got the footprints both tattooed on our arms. I have also 3 stars around my footprints on my arm that represent myself, her, and Chance. And then his initials, and she just has Chance in like a script font that I wrote out on right above hers. Some of his ashes are in the ink that are in the tattoo, so he's kind of always with us anywhere we go. And that's the exact size of...
Yeah, these are his actual...
Yeah, it's crazy because mine, I actually, like these are that's represents me, that represents her, and they scarred, like both of them, and like, I mean,
Is not.
no, his is not.
Well, because we had like the chalks and they're like the all-star. So
Yeah.
then Ryan
Oh, yeah.
wanted to play off like the stars. But yeah, like it was weird that 2 out of 3, because we're like, well, we're obviously permanently scarred.
And trust
so.
me, I tried not to have them scarred. Like, I put all the ointment and everything on there, but yeah, our 2 stars scarred, and his was perfectly fine. So I was gonna get it touched up, but I was like, you know, when I feel that I'm ready to, like, cause I mean, we're both scarred. Some other things that we like to do to honor Chance is during Infant Loss Awareness Month, we have a sign that we got from the Still Remember project that we put Chance's name and put the sign in our front yard to, you know, and as well as our miscarriage baby is also on there, which we call Baby 2, because we really didn't have a name. Yeah.
So, on his birthday every year, if he was here, we would obviously celebrate it. So the past couple of years, we've just, the first year we went to Hocking Hills and got a tree house. Last year we went to Ohio Pow. It was a nice day, just did like a little walk. But we also buy him a birthday cake every year to celebrate it. And then whenever we pick up our cake, we buy a cake for somebody else and write a little note and say it's in his honor, just like an act of kindness to pay it forward and just a little positive thing on his birthday.
Another thing that we do is during the pregnancy, we create these little videos after every doctor's appointment or ultrasound or after the gender reveal, and we would talk directly to him. So we're leaving McGee from the first ultrasound. We saw you for the first time. Okay, so we just left McGee Women's Hospital from our 20-week ultrasound, and we found out your gender, as you can see. Well, we don't know yet. That will all be unveiled tomorrow. And what we were going to do was compile those into just a little documentary to give him later in life, so, you know, he could see, you know, step by step, you know, the whole pregnancy up to his birth. But since when he was born at 20 weeks, we decided that on each of his birthdays that we would sit down and do a video and kind of wrap up the entire year of, you know, what we've been doing, you know, with him, ourselves, and it's just something that helps us get through that special day, you know, his birthday, and it's just a little ode to him, and it's our way of kind of just talking to him without being actually able to talk to him. I think most importantly for me is just talking about him and not acting like he did not exist. And we had a small funeral with just family, and we met with the funeral director, and he asked us what we wanted on the funeral card, and he handed us like 2 options. I don't think either of us read a sentence of it really, because we couldn't. I think I got through like the first word and was like, which one do you want, Jenny? And she's like, that one's fine. And I don't think we even read it until the actual funeral. But there was a part of the little prayer on the back of it that said, if you would honor me, then speak my name and number me among your family. So we always say, and now with Skylar, which has been extremely difficult when people ask, like, oh, is this your first? We always say that she is our third child. Because I know that there's a saying that is that you die twice. The first is when you take your last breath, and the second one is when someone mentions your name for the last time. And that's just something that, at least as long as I live, I don't want him to die twice. He already died once. I want to keep him alive as long as at least I possibly can.
I actually have a coworker who had a couple of miscarriages herself. She has honestly been probably like the best part, like just talking to her. A ton of family and friends, but I just think unless it's something you've experienced, losing a child, like even our parents or siblings, like they just, as helpful as they've been, like they just can't quite like relate the same. So just having her and another friend that kind of have gone through it and just being able to talk to them it was really helpful. I think shortly after losing Chance, like one self-care kind of thing I did, I would say just like exercise of some kind. We would Peloton. Some days I just needed like a rap ride and just a hard workout. Other days like yoga, meditation. I feel like that was kind of one of my coping mechanisms that helped me.
We had a really big support team whenever Chance passed. Part of that was hard though, because a lot of people reached out to us, and it's crazy how many people you don't realize have gone through a miscarriage or a loss or anything until you've actually gone through it. So we had a lot of people reach out, and say, we've had this happen. There were some times where it was, like I said, it was difficult because we weren't, the circumstances of Chance's passing, we don't necessarily talk about a lot. And the events that took place, and I think a lot of people thought it was a miscarriage when it was something so much worse than a miscarriage. I know with me, music's a huge part of my life. I listen to it a lot.
And loud.
And loud. Music is meant to be played loud. And I remember creating a playlist that was called Positive Vibes, and it was just a bunch of songs that if I ever got down or in a weird space mentally, I would just put that playlist on, and I shared that with her as well. So it was kind of something that helped us get through. They say that, and I don't know who they are, but that cardinals are a representation of people that have passed in your life. And shortly after Chance had passed, we had a cardinal show up in our backyard that we always called Chance. And he would fly around and visit us, especially when Skylar was born and we would take her out on the back porch. There were a few times like the cardinal got closer than it's ever gotten to us. So it was kind of his way of saying, I'm still here. So this is something that I got for Jenny. It has cardinals on it. It lights up, ignore that. That has a poem on it, and it sits in our kitchen. And it says, as I sit in heaven. And it says, as I sit in heaven and watch you every day, I try and let you know with signs I never went away. I hear you when you're laughing, and I watch you as you sleep. I even place my arms around you to calm you as you weep. I see you wish the days away, begging to have me home. So I try and send you signs so you know you're not alone. Don't feel guilty that you have life that was denied to me. Heaven is truly beautiful, just you wait and see. So live your life Laugh again. Enjoy yourself. Be free. Then I'll know with each breath you take, you'll be taking one for me. So that's something along with the cardinals that we kind of look at every day. And I don't know. I just hope that, that's how he would feel. Another crazy story. So for Mother's Day one year, Chance bought her a blue orchid plant. It had a bunch of different orchids on it, and they were dyed blue, almost basically like that color blue. And it stayed that way, and probably for months.
May.
From May to her birthday. We were in the hospital when Skylar was born, and when we got home from the hospital, we walked into the kitchen, and the one orchid had turned from blue to pink. And it was like, I don't know, we thought it was his way of saying, welcome home, sister.
So at the hospital, before they sent us home with a packet of papers just with some different organizations listed. Prior to leaving the hospital, we were also given like a little care package, a box from the Still Remembered project. They also had put Chance in a nice little knitted, I don't know what do you even call it, blanket kind of thing. That was a donation from the Still Remembered project. We also, after getting home from the hospital, we got a care package from Emma's Footprints. One of the things they included was a necklace with a little C on it, which is actually one of my favorites still. I still wear it all the time. I know there were a lot of resources. I think right after it was just so raw and overwhelming. I mean, the pamphlets, the folders of papers, I don't think really, for me, didn't really do much. I think it was just, like I said, raw and overwhelming, and didn't really know what to make out of any of them.
We did an online group, because that was another very difficult thing for us. Was it was still during COVID, so it was actually they didn't even let me into the hospital whenever we got there. On the ambulance, I had to basically kick and scream until they let me into the hospital. So there was no in-person groups or anything like that to go to. Did one group online, and after that I just it wasn't beneficial for me. It brought more pain and memories than anything for me, so I wasn't really utilizing them. But I know that I
think I did maybe 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. Like she said, for those first weeks or so, we just laid in bed. We were so exhausted mentally, because there were nights that, the first night I don't think I slept a wink, because I was just trying to process everything, going through all of the events that took place, that I didn't sleep. And then there were other nights where I would wake up crying my eyes out, hysterically, or she would be crying. We would just wake up and comfort each other. So I think the first few weeks it was just trying to figure out where we were at, and I don't think any piece of paper or pamphlet or anything was going to help us at that point. But after that, like she said, I kind of pushed for the both of us to at least try and seek help, because I knew that it was what we had gone through was extremely traumatic, and was just concerned for both of our mental health going forward. So.
Well, I think, like we both said, a lot of it was overwhelming. So I did attend some in-person support group meetings. Still remember they have them monthly at their facility. I think you may have actually found them on Instagram and sent it to me. And it was, close to a year after Chance had passed, a few months after the miscarriage. But I wish I wouldn't have waited as long to go to the meeting. I think I called him like on the way home, and I like remembered like driving home feeling like a weight was like lifted. It was like all these, I don't know, feelings I had or thoughts that I had, kind of like feeling like a crazy lady for like the past year. It was sitting down with all these other women who had experienced similar things, and just like everything that I had thought, like they had thought or felt like also. So it was almost just like a validation, like you're not alone, like this is, I mean, normal. But I think, yeah, just knowing there's something like that out there in like the earlier months, like not waiting a year, I think it would have been definitely beneficial to take advantage of sooner than later. I mean, like Ryan said, like we had a great like support system through everything. I think honestly the thing was just being there. Like it was such a roller coaster of emotions. I don't think any day or level of grief was like the same. So it was like some days I was like, okay, like I'm okay. Other days and I was okay, and then I was like, well, why am I okay? Like I should still be sad. And then other days I was a complete like wreck. So it's just being there and not trying to like figure it out, just kind of let it take its its course, and just yeah.
For me, we handle at least chances passing differently. I'm a lot more open to questions and discussions than I think you are. That's probably fair to say. So I'm always like, if somebody wants to ask about chance or anything, like I'm very responsive to that. But at the same time, she's not, and just reading the room and like not being afraid at the same time to ask questions, because I mean that's how, like I said before, like that's how Chance is gonna live on, and us talking about him. But there are also certain things that we don't tell people, that we keep to ourselves. After Chance's passing, it was crazy. Like she mentioned, it was a roller coaster, but it was a roller coaster for both of us in the sense that there was, I think whenever like we got home, like, well, even in the hospital when we got home, like she was kind of a wreck, and then like she got okay, and then it was like, okay, it's my turn to to hit rock bottom, and then we just kind of both went up and down and were there for each other. So we both had specific moments in time where it was tough for the both of us, but
that there's no right or wrong way to grieve. Everybody does it differently. And I think too, a lot of people like tread lightly with like miscarriages or losses and are afraid that you don't want to talk about it. So like Ryan said, just talking about Chance and keeping him like, in the forefront, like the present is a big way. But I think a lot of times I think it's becoming better. More people are talking about it and sharing experiences. But I think it is, like I said, just kind of like a slippery slope, and people, I think, don't want to bring it up like to upset you. But I think for a lot of people, like by bringing it up and talking about your baby or babies, I think it's, I think that's helpful.
I know that some of the times when we talk about Chance, it might make people uncomfortable. But we don't really care, to be honest. Like we said, like just keeping his memory alive is it's very important to us. We have these shoes and we take them places, and we're not afraid to take pictures and post them, because one of the things that people don't realize is that we just didn't lose a life, we lost a lifetime. Like we're not gonna get to see our son take his first steps, or have his first birthday or his 16th birthday, or get his driver's license, or play his first basketball game or soccer game or anything like that. So the memories that we do have, of bringing him along to places on hikes and when we take pictures, at certain places, or now with Skylar. A lot of the times, like with her infant photos, we took pictures with her and Chance's shoes. And even for his birthday, like, you know, we went out to Ohio Pile and brought her along, obviously, and like took pictures as a family. You know, we hold his shoes in a lot of the family photos that we take, and we know that Christmas pictures, everything. He's always going to be in any family photo. And kind of going along with that is that we don't know what we have ideas. I mean, I think we both probably have ideas of what he would have been like as a baby, as, you know, as a teenager, as an adult. But we won't ever be able to find out. Like, I remember the one time, I think you were in bed and I was sitting out by the fire, and he's a Virgo. He was, you know, for September 20th, and I looked, you know, if you Google like Virgo, it, you know, sometimes says like, oh, Virgos are this, this, and this, and I remember reading that to see like what would like, how accurate is this to what my son might have been. Like, I'm reading a horoscope to find out and see what Chance would have been like. So I think that's just kind of some of the weird things that grief makes you go through, and makes you do.
That they're not alone. When we lost Chance, like Ryan said, like a lot of people had reached out to us. So a friend of ours reached out to me and said, hey, my friend who lives in Oklahoma recently lost twins. Just got us in contact like through Instagram. Never met this lady before, but she could not have been any kinder. Shared her story with me, listened to our story. And one thing she told me that I'll always remember is like being a lost parent is a club that nobody wants to be in, but it's a club like no other club. Like, it's the most supportive and understanding. So I think, just for any parents, knowing they're not alone, and there's so many people willing to like listen to them or talk to them, and just very supportive, like I said, club that no one wants to be in.
Some of the thoughts that go through your head during grief, you're like, am I crazy? Like, am I really thinking that right now? And I know that was a big thing for her when we did the online ones, and then when she eventually did the in-person ones, that she came back and she's like, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not the only person that thinks like this. Like, these thoughts like that I had that I thought were completely nutty, a lot of people have. So I was glad to hear her come back from those meetings, and, you know, it was just affirmation that like, you know, you're not alone. You're not the only one that felt this way or thought this way. I think another thing, I mean, at least for me, and was in the one support group that we did, like, there was a lot of the guys kind of stand back and just they're, you know, in the background. And I don't know if that's because, like, as men we're wired to be tough and not express our feelings. But I also think that as men, like, we grieve just as much. I mean, obviously there's a huge connection between a mother and a baby. But as a father as well, you know, as a man, like, we're not supposed to show our emotions. We're not supposed to cry. I cried my eyes out sometimes more than her. I know that, I mean, in one instance, we had what was the family outing that everyone was, we had a bunch of family over, and we were having a party in the backyard, and it was very similar.
Were home in the summer?
Yeah, it was when my niece and nephew were home from San Diego. It was basically like all of the people that were there for our gender reveal in our backyard. So it was a very similar situation. And I had a very strong relationship with my grandmother, and I wanted my children to have that same relationship with my mom. So she had said something, and I know that she didn't mean it or like bad or anything, but it just, something clicked in my head. Her niece was there, who was probably like 2 or 3 at the time, and she said, "Come here, Paisley, I want to hold you. I haven't held a baby in a very long time." And like I said, something in my head just snapped basically, and she ended up finding me sitting on the ground. Basically, I don't know if it was PTSD or what it was, but I was losing it in the bedroom. So it's just like, as a man, like, I didn't feel weak or anything like that. It was just, what we've gone through, it's not easy, and it's okay as a man, I think, to grieve. That would be one thing that I would at least share with the fathers through losses.
But the in-person group that I went to, it was just the women. The online one was both, but like you said, like talking, it was normally most of the women. So as much as I benefited from it, if there was one, geared towards like the fathers or like the men, I do think, I think you could have benefited from it the same way that I did. Like I said, I had waited for over close to a year after. So I think knowing if there was the center who would have made me feel better and validated earlier on, I think it would have been extremely helpful. Like I said, I had some coping mechanisms, but leaving that meeting that day, there's feeling like a sigh of relief, like, hey, there's other people. So again, my other answers are just knowing you're not alone and there's other people who can relate to you and support you. I just think it would be a huge help to anybody going through this difficult time.
Every situation is completely different. Like, no one's is like, oh yeah, that's exactly what happened to us. Because for us, we don't know what happened. Like, there was no medical answer for why Chance was born at 20 weeks. They think it was a placental abruption, but that was never confirmed. They did genetic testing. There was nothing conclusive there. So we have no answers. I think having somewhere to sit down or to spend a weekend or something like that to just get to know people, and even if you don't even talk about it, just know that there is happiness at the end. There's not a day that has gone by, and I know that like that's a term that's used a lot, but there hasn't been. I can't ever remember a day that since he passed that I did not think of him in that day. It's kind of hard not to. Like, he's tattooed on my arm, and you come into our house, and like we actually keep these shoes on our TV stand right in our living room. There's other numerous memorabilia and stuff like that that are there. So, but I've never stopped thinking about him and, in a sense, grieving. I don't know how long it will take until that day is over, but I think to have some place where you can go and just feel relaxed in a sense, but also connect with other people and sharing that grief journey would be extremely useful. The day that we went to our 8-week appointment, I think 8-week appointment for our second baby, we were on our way there. We were driving, and it was like 8 in the morning or something, and she turned to me and she's like, I have a bad feeling. And I'm like, everything's gonna be okay. She's like, I had a dream last night that we got to the hospital and they told me that there was no baby. And it came true. We got there, and they were doing an ultrasound, and the tech just looked off, And we were both just kind of silent the entire time. And then when the doctors came in, we were just like, like again.
I don't think you can see that.
I'll bleep it out.
I think now, having a daughter, it almost, for me, miss Chance more. Like all these little, she would obviously never be a replacement for him, but it's just every little milestone of hers and how much we love her. It's almost like a reminder how much more we miss him. I remember, like Ryan said, we have a lot of things on our TV stand. One of her newborn pictures is her holding with her little shoe tucked under her arm. And when Skylar was a couple weeks old, she was extremely fussy. And the one day she was just crying and crying. And I was so frustrated. And I'm bouncing her and spinning all this stuff. And I looked up and I saw the picture with Chance. And I was I was so frustrated with her. And then I got frustrated with myself because I'm mad at this baby for crying when I would have given anything to hear Chance cry. So I think just having another baby now is just all bittersweet. And
I have pictures of Chance on my phone that I'll look at occasionally. And when Skylar was born, she looked, at least to me, so much like Chance. So there's some days that I'm looking at her and like she said, I'm picturing Chance in a sense, of him crawling around or eating or spitting out food or just living life, I guess, that we will never get to see what happened. Sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's extremely hard because like Jenny said, it's a reminder of we could have been doing this with Chance now, because he would be over 2 years old now. But yeah, watching him grow up would have been really nice.